Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest aliens and UFOs video. Alright, let's go ahead and let's continue the wonderful book Alien Contact, Top Secret UFO Files Revealed by Timothy Good, once again delving into Chapter 1 with the theme associated with aerial confrontations. In fact, the last part that we were looking at, we saw some examples of some almost high-speed chases associated with UFOs moving at incredible speeds, changing at almost otherworldly angles, and otherwise just being almost impossible to catch. So this one will actually conclude this chapter, and we're going to see some more examples associated with aerial confrontation. So I'm going to present them here, and then as always, give my own thoughts and opinions associated to them. So let me know what you guys and gals think as far as this chapter as it concludes. Post it in the comments below. Without further ado, let's go ahead and let's talk about this next part, which will be part 3 of chapter 1, once again titled Aerial Confrontation. So here's what this part says. Another official report confirms that the UFO was tracked at a radar center near Petroslav Zalesky. At 21:55 hours, the object disappeared at an azimuth of 240 and a range of 40 kilometers. At 21:59 hours, there was an observation of an airplane at an azimuth of 250 degrees, a range of 30 to 50 kilometers, and a course of 330 degrees. The object turned and at great speed approached the airplane. After an approach to a distance of about 20 kilometers, the object disappeared from the field of observation and appeared again to the rear and above the plane. The object moved in an arc at azimuth 270. At 22:01 hours, the object hovered in place at an azimuth of 190 to 200 degrees and the range of up to 100 kilometers. At 22:03 hours, a fighter aircraft appeared at an azimuth of 240 degrees, and while the fighter was approaching the object, the latter disappeared. At 22:05 hours, the object appeared at an azimuth of 190 to 220 degrees, hovered, and after 1 or 2 more minutes, disappeared again. The object looked like a flying saucer with two very bright lights along the edges, reported another observer, Captain V. Biren. Its diameter was approximately 100 to 200 meters, judging by the shining lights. A less intense light, which looked like a porthole, could be seen between the two bright lights. The trajectory depended on the flashing of the bright lights. The more often they flash, the faster the speed of the UFO, and vice versa. While hovering, the object extinguished its lights almost completely. At 22:30 hours, the object headed off in the direction of Moscow. Now, the movement of the UFO was not accompanied by sound of any kind and was distinguished by its startling maneuverability, commented General Maltsov. It seemed that the UFO was completely devoid of inertia. In other words, they had somehow come to terms with gravity. At the present time, terrestrial machines hardly have any such capability. A number of additional Soviet Air Force UFO incidences have been brought to my attention by Nikolai Lebedev, a leading Russian researcher. On October 8, 1990, for example, two huge unidentified targets were tracked on radar over the vicinity of Grozny, Chechensk, and according to S. Prokoshin, commander of the local air unit, and an interceptor jet was then sent to investigate. At 11:27 hours, I was given the coordinates of the target and the task of finding it, reported the pilot Major P. Rybyshev. According to information from the command unit, the object was at an altitude of 4.5 kilometers. The weather was cloudless and visibility was fine, but the search proved to be in vain. I informed the command unit that then made a turn and headed back to the base. Suddenly, something forced me to turn around. Behind me and to the right, I saw two cigar-shaped objects of considerable dimensions. The length of the first was about 2 kilometers. The length of the second, about 400 meters. They were positioned one beside the other and were clearly visible. The smaller object was streaked with silver, was reflecting the sun, while the larger one looked dull. I noticed that the UFOs were moving sideways at great speed. I made a turn and began to approach them, but suddenly both targets disappeared instantly from my field of vision, although traces of the targets remained on the radar screen. Glassnode has led to a relatively open attitude towards the subject of UFOs in the USSR, now the Commonwealth of Independent States. In January 1989, for example, I was invited to express my views openly in an interview on Leningrad television, whereas on previous visits, such an opportunity would not have been available. I was also surprised when, in the space section of the exhibition of economic achievements in Moscow, I came across a UFO stand featuring a display of photographs, books, and magazines, including Britain's FSR, one of the leading journals on the subject. In response to a question about UFOs from a group of workers in the Urals in early 1990, former President Mikhail Gorbachev stated that the phenomenon of UFOs does exist and it must be treated seriously. Times have changed, but I must point out that the Committee for State Security, the KGB, and its successor organization, the Russian Security Ministry and Foreign Intelligence Service, has maintained a firm control over dissemination of information of the subject. Nevertheless, it is encouraging to note that two Hollywood film companies currently own the rights to certain aspects of the KGB study of UFOs. Next section is called Hide and Seek in Belgium. In addition to the USSR, the Belgian Defense Ministry has now openly admitted that unexplained aerial objects have intruded into its airspace. Since November 1989, over 3,000 witnesses, including military personnel, pilots, police, air traffic controllers, engineers, and scientists, have reported sightings in Belgium. The UFOs are usually described as huge, triangular or rectangular shaped devices, and on the night of March 30th to 31st, 1990, 10 days after the Soviet Air Force incidents, several police patrols and other witnesses reported a UFO, which was confirmed by radar units at Glans and Semerzaki. Two Belgian Air Force F-16 fighters were sent to intercept, guided by police on the ground. The police succeeded in locking on to the target with their radar. At first, the object had been moving very slowly, as low as 25 miles per hour, but suddenly it accelerated at an incredible speed and dropped to an altitude of 7,500 feet to below 750 feet in the space of 1 second. On 3 occasions that night, the F-16s lost onto the target, and each time the object took evasive action, playing hide and seek with the planes by diving to below 750 feet out of radar range and then leisurely climbing back into radar range. There was a logic in the movements of the UFO, declared Belgian Air Force Chief of Operations Colonel Wilfred de Brouwer, who ruled out meteorological or electromagnetic phenomenon as the source of the radar echoes. The incidents, lasting for 75 minutes, were observed by many witnesses on the ground, including 20 policemen. Thanks to Belgian Defense Ministry guy Coemi, tapes from the F-16 black boxes have now been made available, clearly indicating the target, which was close to the planes, as it was automatically tracked by computer. Although the Air Force refused to allow the pilots to give interviews in order to avoid unwelcome publicity, Colonel de Brouwer nevertheless fully endorses their reports. They're young guys and they think it was something special, he remarked. They're convinced it was something. In an unprecedented degree of official cooperation, the Belgian Air Force placed a number of aircraft, including a British Aerospace 748 twin turboprop equipped with infrared and other sophisticated sensors, at the disposal of a UFO group. The Société Belge d'Études des Phénomènes Spatiaux, or SOBEPS, during an extensive skywatch held during the Easter 1990 weekend. Over 1,000 citizens, together with the police patrols, were involved, and although a number of observations from the ground were made, each time the aircraft arrived on the scene, the mysterious intruder descended to rooftop level, which, combined with poor weather, made interception impossible. Next segment is called the Flying Complaints Flight. The British Ministry of Defense will be among the last, I am sure, to acknowledge openly the fact that our airspace is being intruded by unidentified, intelligently controlled aerial devices, although they have never denied the existence of UFOs per se. In 1991, for example, full page advertisements for recruiting Royal Air Force fighter controls appeared in major British newspapers. Headed UFO or VIP above a picture of blips on a radar screen, the ad included a paragraph that stated, whether it's reporting on unidentified objects, guiding fighter pilots, or checking on thousands of man made objects orbiting the Earth, fighter controllers are maintaining the defense of their country in one of the most high pressure environments that there is. As disclosed in above top secret, the Royal Air Force has been engaged in clandestine research into UFOs for many years, and together with the Defense Intelligence Staff and Directorate of Scientific and Technological Intelligence, investigations are allegedly carried out by a secret, larger unit sequestered under the Flying Complaints Flight, based at Royal Air Force, Rudloe Manor in Wiltshire, headquarters of the Provost and Security Services. A new independent source has subsequently come forward with corroborative details as well as additional relevant information. My new informant, a former special investigator for the Provost and Security Services, has learned that certain UFO sightings are initially investigated by the Provost and Security Services special investigators attached to the Flying Complaints Flight at Rudloe Manor. I've been given to understand that the unit is staffed by senior, non commissioned officers and officers trained in all aspects of special investigations and counterintelligence. Reports are forwarded to the Director of Security and Provost Marshal, RAF, at the Metropole Building in Northumberland Avenue, London, and then to the appropriate department within the Ministry of Defense, most probably DI-55 of the Defense Intelligence Staff, as the Ministry of Defense has admitted to me. Interestingly, it was in the Northumberland Avenue building that Gordon Creighton was working as an intelligence officer in an uncertain department when he had several opportunities to discuss the subject with CIA and United States Air Force personnel who were liaison with their British counterparts in the Air Ministry on top secret investigations into the phenomenon. Creighton learned that the Deputy Directorate of Intelligence technically employed full-time researchers during this period, the 1950s, a fact consistently denied by the Ministry of Defense. And in 1957, Reynolds News revealed the existence of room 801 on the ninth floor, where all reports were collected and analyzed. Room 801, as it was claimed, was top secret, its interior never seen by unauthorized persons. A former non-commissioned officer who was also working as a senior investigator with the Provost and Security Services confirmed to my source that the Flying Complaints Flight dealt with UFO reports and that these were forwarded to the Provost Marshal's offices and then to the appropriate department in the Ministry of Defense. Prior to moving to Rudloe Manor, the Flying Complaints Flight operated from an office in government buildings, Bromyard Avenue in Acton, London, I was informed. A former counterintelligence investigator whose name is known to me revealed to my informant that although he was security cleared to the highest category, he was denied access to this office during the period he worked there from 1963 to 1965. I had access to every top secret file there was, except low flying because I understand they dealt with UFOs, the investigator disclosed, adding that the unit was small, situated in a well-locked office at the end of a corridor. We could get in anywhere, but not in that department. I remember they used to have an air ministry guard in the passage. You couldn't get past them. We could see the provost marshal's top secret files, yet I couldn't get into the place dealing with the UFOs. Rudloe Manor does not serve as a 24-hour tracking station, as I've been told by an earlier source, but Royal Air Force police investigators there do operate a 24-hour service for UFO reports, as well as a number of other P and SS units around the country. From my personal experience as a serving member of the RAF Provost and Security Services, my source concluded, also from the information obtained from two informants, I am sure, beyond any reasonable shadow of doubt, that all investigations into UFOs are carried out by investigators of the P&SS who are serving in a small secret unit with a flying complaints flight based at HQ, PNSS, Rudler, Manor, and I believe the activities of this unit to be so secret that fellow investigators serving in the Special Investigations and Counterintelligence sections of the RAF are not fully aware of the activities of the FCF. My informant went on to elaborate on the possible operational procedures involved in the handling of UFO reports. Number one, UFO incident reported and channeled through flying complaints flight. Number two, a file is opened and investigation activated. Number three, notification sent to Provost Marshal's office in Northumberland Avenue, followed by regular reports. Number four, the Provost Marshal's office forwards memos and copies to the DI-55, who in turn issues memos and instructions, etc., back to the Provost Marshal's office, who in turn instructs the FCF. There would be no general direct contact between the DI-55B and FCF, but on occasions, in very important cases, the FCF and the DI-55B staff could work well together. The Security Service MI5 could also become involved in certain cases. Number five, DI-55B would in any event report to the Security Service HQ there in Curzon Street, London, who would in turn liaise with the Prime Minister, depending on the nature of the investigation. And number six, throughout any UFO investigation, it is most likely that private UFO research groups, as well as witnesses, would be subjected to an official monitoring operation. None of this shows, of course, that Her Majesty's government has established contact with aliens, nor indeed does it prove that the phenomenon is even extraterrestrial in origin. What it does show is that the government takes the whole issue a great deal more seriously than we have meant to believe, and in company with the American intelligence community, classifies its findings at a highly secret level. Then that's it. Let's go ahead and let's conclude this part here, part 3 of chapter 1, Aerial Confrontation, there from the book Alien Contact, Top Secret UFO Files Revealed by Timothy Good. I thought I was going to conclude the chapter, but I realized there was actually a lot still more to talk about. So let's go ahead and let's do this part and then conclude the other part, part 4, in the next video. So as you can see, lots of interesting details still associated with aerial confrontations. Here you had at the beginning of this video where there was several instances of more UFOs being chased at great speeds and great angles by, in this case, some Russian aircraft. What was most fascinating was the idea that there was one of those encounters that involved two UFOs. They were cigar-shaped, but the sizes of them were monumental, especially the bigger one. The bigger one was 2 kilometers in length. Can you believe that? And then the smaller one was 400 meters, which is still pretty big. Like it's 1,200 feet, in other words. So 2 kilometers, it would take you at least, 2 minutes to be able to go from one point to another if you're driving in a car at average speed. That's how big it was. And yet there it was, moving at incredible speeds and maneuverability, as if it was the size, fraction of a size from what it was from before. Then there was that interesting quote from Mikhail Gorbachev that stated, the phenomenon of UFOs does exist and it must be treated seriously. It does seem like, based on the information of this chapter, that the Russians, at least at that time, who knows if they do now, but they were able to take a lot more evidence and do a lot more observations, try to analyze things far more than it seems like the Americans did when it came to the UFO sightings. Like they took it more seriously instead of it just being, oh, it's a meteor or something along those lines. Like they actually thought it was something else altogether, or it is something else altogether. And then there was that other UFO encounter where it started off at 25 miles per hour, and then in the span of 1 single second, it moved 7,000 feet. Can you believe that? 1 single second. How fast would that be? Could your eyes even see something that fast? It would be something where it's almost like it's playing tricks on your eyes and you're wondering what happened. What did I just see? Something along those lines. Interesting stuff. And then it went to the next segment called the Flying Complaints Flight, where it showcases apparently a super secret office. That was pretty interesting to see. Room 801, apparently at that building there, showcases a mysterious room, completely locked, inaccessible to anyone that's considered unauthorized. They have a guard there as well, presumably 24 hours as well, and only the very, very top echelon have access to it. Even the informant from this guy, Timothy Good, the author of the book, who stated he has an informant somewhere there who had top clearance as well, the toppest of all, highest of all, stated that even he could not get into that room. Makes you wonder exactly what that room holds even to this day. Apparently, it was discovered back in 1957. So, what, over 50 years later, what is its existence now? What is in that room? What could be causing so much secrecy, right, when it comes to that information? I imagine it's just a lot of documents, but what do the documents hold? And then there was the list, the bullet points 1 through 6, showcasing what the usual operational procedures are of that office. I think the last bullet point was the most frightening. It stated that throughout any UFO investigation, it is most likely that private UFO research groups, as well as witnesses, would be subjected to an official monitoring operation. You get the gist of that? That means that if you try to do something along those lines, where you're researching this stuff, you're an investigator, you're looking at UFOs, trying to find them, and this department you catch their eye, then officially you're going to be monitored. How crazy is that? Like all of a sudden you're going to have guys in black suits and unmarked cars essentially following you around to see what you're doing. I mean, you are just a regular Joe walking about, just thinking that you're trying to find the truth associated with UFOs, and now you have an unofficial government organization tracking your every single move. Just creepy when you think about it. That's not something that I would want to have happen. I'm sure most people wouldn't want to have happen too. But that's it. Let me know what you guys and gals think with regards to this latest part. All right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care.